doing better. I hope you all are doing wonderful. Please hit that like button for me. Please hit that like button for me, family, if you are in the building. As always, let's do the housekeeping that we do all the time. Please, 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 after you hit that like button, please make sure you hit the subscribe button if you have not done that. These are important. Like and subscribe. If you have not already done that, please take the time to actually do so. Also, if you want to support the channel, please go to patreon.com/ycarnell, or you can also go to donatebrown.com. Do whatever you like. Do whatever you like. Please do not forget also, before I forget, that July the 30th, that is a Thursday, we will be reading this book. So please do not forget, if you have not picked up your copy, that we're going to have the conversation. And it's kind of poignant at the moment, but please do not forget that we will be reading this Immigration and the Remaking of Black America. So please, 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 please make sure that you do that. Hit that bell. Also, hit that bell if you have not hit that bell to get notifications. Go to subscribe-to-brown.com as well. Subscribe-to-brown.com. That costs you no money. You can do that as well. And just like hitting that like button costs you no money. If you just walked into the room, just hit that like button for me. So I appreciate it. Listen, we have to have a conversation, and we have to talk about unlearning some things that we have learned. Did you know that unlearning is just as important as learning? Did you know it? So there are some things that we have to get into, that we have to unlearn, because we have learned some wrong things. And let me tell you how I know we've learned some wrong things, because I see how we're reacting to some things that are going on. So what am I talking about? Well, life has changed, ladies and gentlemen. The onslaught of the COVID. And I'm not talking about whether you as an individual get sick from this highly contagious pandemic plague stuff. I'm not even asking about that. I'm talking about also the effect that it is having on the economy, the amount of people who don't have jobs. So let me just provide a bit of context before we go on, in terms of what is business saying? What are people saying? What is happening? What is the moment? As I frame it, I want to talk about what this moment is, and then we're going to talk about how we're misinterpreting the moment and why. There's a reason behind all of the madness. It's something that we have not learned, and in some way, in terms of how we are anchored, that is causing a problem. Did you know that if you're anchored wrong, or if you're not anchored, that you just kind of scatter in the wind, flip-flop it like a little rag doll? Did you know that? That's true. So keep that in mind, put a pin in it, and we're going to come right back to it. Now we're going to look at what the CEO of Airbnb said. Travel may never be the same. He said never. That's a signal. Understand how to read signals. That means that something drastic has happened in the world. He said, I will go on the record to say that travel will never, ever go back to the way it was pre-COVID. It just won't. Chesky told us by Zoom from his home in San Francisco. There are sometimes months when decades of transformation happens. Now I want you to read that second line again. That last line, he said, there are sometimes months when decades of transformation happen. Now forget how you feel about him or capitalists or whatever. This is just true. Sometimes life happens and it speeds everything up, or it just puts a whole bunch of madness on roller skates. That's what we are. Let me go to what else he said really quickly, because I just want to show where we are, and then show how we're reacting. And this is him. This is still the same article, still him. People are not getting on airplanes. They're not crossing borders. They're not meaningfully traveling to cities. They're not traveling for business. They're getting in cars. They're traveling to communities that are 200 miles away or less. They are usually very small communities. They're staying in homes, and they're staying longer. Most people haven't gone to them, talking about different places to travel. And it's pretty cheap. You don't need to buy a plane ticket. You can usually drive, because most people live within 200 miles of a park. So he's saying traveling has changed. But here's the thing. It's not just what he's talking about. Even with COVID, you're seeing more young people get it. Right? You're seeing a whole lot of things have you ever lived through a plague? I haven't. A lot of countries have gotten it under control, but not America. We got wild people, wild feral alley cats out here running around and just don't want to wear no mask. And then we had protests because why? America never fixed racism. You had all the way from slavery to Reconstruction, Jim Crow. You decided you didn't want to fix it, so hey, that's on you too. So now we have this. We have LA County issues warning amid alarming increases. We've seen this from a bunch of states. The amount of the COVID is just increasing almost exponentially in places. We see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. Some U.S. states return to previous restrictions to slow surge of coronavirus cases. Well, and it's not just because like these states are red states or whatever. That's part of it. But part of it is the government just kind of there is no one America. Obama lied. There is no one America. And so you have all these little factions who have like different ideas about, what you should do and how you should do it. And then you have a president who don't want to lead. He just want to look like a cowboy and not wear a mask and not tell people, hey, listen, you need to wear it. He don't want to signal that. And people who are lemmings, they just follow Trump. Trump's their man. I ain't got to wear no mask. That's freedom. They don't understand. You're going into a private establishment. It's funny. It's just funny. They understand private property when you're talking about all kinds of other stuff. But when you talk about, hey, this belongs to these people, this restaurant or whatever, and they want you to wear a mask because you might spread a deadly disease. You're getting against my rights. I got a right to do what I want. America just has raised a bunch of like wild, feral crybabies who just want to do what they want, and they've gotten away with that for so long. Again, that's not our fault. We felt the bitter blow of those little wild people, those little feral people. We dealt with them all the time, but now America, those people are becoming a real consequence. Republicans didn't care about those feral people as long as they voted Republican. Didn't care if they were stupid. But now it's about to be a consequence. So we're in a moment. Remember I said I was going to frame this. We're in a very specific kind of moment that has to be interpreted in a very specific way. Here's another interpretation for the moment. COVID deaths. Remember the dodo birds who were telling us, boys, one of them, that this is just like the flu. I don't understand why people are talking about it. It's just like the flu. Well, I don't think this looks like a flu chart. Let me just bring this up a little bit bigger. COVID-19, flu, pneumonia. COVID-19 is red. I'm going to bring it back up in a second, but let me just explain the chart. COVID-19 is red. Flu, pneumonia is yellow. Car crashes are purple. The cancer is light green, and heart disease is blue. Now I want to bring this up. You see how the COVID do? You see how it went all the way up? You see it went up there, then finally overtook heart disease? I'm going to tell you something. That's not, I don't care what nobody tell you, that is not the same as the doggone cold or flu. The chart says so. Now we're in a moment. I'm just going through what this moment looks like, because I see a lot of people that haven't changed the way they move in the world. And I see a lot of people who don't understand, and I have a reason for why we don't understand all of the stuff that we need to understand in this moment. Well, are we going to recover quick from the coronavirus? At least if we had it before, we can't get it again, right? Well, not so fast. A Chinese study shows that people infected with COVID-19 lose antibodies only within a few months. So you might have a few good months, and then you right back at it. And even then, you should wear a mask because you might infect somebody else. All this is a wild moment, almost as wild as them people acting up at the store because they don't want to wear a mask. Job losses in recessions. Now I want you to look at the job losses. Look at the dates on top from the royal blue, and look at 2020. That's what's that, like a burgundy color or a deep brown or something like that. So let me bring this up bigger for you. You see how COVID just went up there and was up and now up there with everybody else, like pa-choom. This is a wild moment. This is a wild moment. And we're not reacting like people who are caught up in a wild moment. We're not behaving that way. We keeping the same gait we got. We keeping the same gait we done had before. I'm not talking about the ADOS family, but we're a very unique group in terms of who we are here, who shows up here for this conversation. I'm saying we just keeping the gait we got, doing the same things and having the same shows, same conversations. We haven't reoriented or changed our tribes. Beyonce still got a whole African thing going on, just like Wakanda, just like everything else. So what I ask myself is self. You see, coronavirus, asymptomatic people can still have lung damage. Wait, that about to be. Can't pay your student loans. A lot of stuff going on. I'm just telling you, I'm just painting this moment. CDC says, because I hate to deal too much with the COVID, but we have to bring it back up because people act like because they ain't lost a lung and ain't nothing going on. CDC says U.S. has way too much virus to control pandemic as cases surge across the country. So the question becomes, and here's another chart for you, nice little chart of the younger generation. What's that, Gen Z back home, millennials too? Everybody got no job. What was it, like 50%? So when you look at all this stuff, you ask yourself, like, how come Negroes, when I say Negroes, I mean mostly ADOS. How come we're behaving the same way we did and going after butter biscuits and different stuff the same way we did pre-COVID? See, because when you see something like this, your lens has to change. Everything that you're doing and the way you're doing it has to change. You got to batten down the hatches and get it tight and get the people around you, get your tribe, and advocate in a way that you haven't advocated specifically for you. All that other stuff you were doing is out the door. I don't even think you had room for it before then, but it's out the door now. Terry Crews and all your all lives matter stuff, and you can't think yourself out of a paper bag. But I swear you wanna be silk and diamond so much you can feel it. But that won't save you. See, because you're misinterpreting the moment. You think this can save you because it's always saved. You can dance around with your muscles and make yourself look inoffensive, even though you got all them strong muscles. You gotta be something to have all them muscles and can't do nothing with them. You can't do nothing with them. You still gotta dance around and dress up in high heels. That's gotta be quite the feeling. But the question becomes, why? That's what I like to investigate. Why? Why is this man thinking that he can still save himself by doing the stuff he used to do behind closed doors? I'm just gonna be the all lives matter guy. And I'm strong. It's not going to work this time. You're misinterpreting the moment, thinking that what used to work for you or what probably built your whole career behind closed doors, you're thinking that's going to work now. And the question is, why do we keep misinterpreting the moment? That little stuff you're doing right there ain't going to work. Why are we misinterpreting the moment? Well, I have an idea. For why we have this is almost like a disease, the level at which we're misinterpreting the moment that we're in. So, and I have an idea for why that is. Let me just say something. We have never quite, as I get into, because I'm going to get into that Beyonce video, and I'm going to get into a few more things. But let me just start with the first thing. I know these aren't accurate land mass interpretation, so don't send that to me. I'm talking about the way we see them online. Somewhere in our history, or somewhere in the propaganda or the propagandizing of our community, we were taught something that don't make no sense. So you see this, at the left, you see that's America. Now that is a country. That is a country made up of states. To your right, you see you see Africa. That is a continent. That is a continent made up of countries. One is one country, one is one continent. Those are not states in the country of Africa. Those are actual countries. And somehow in our mind, we have gotten it mixed up and we think that Africa is a country. That's the only way we would refer to it as Africa. That's the only way we would do what we've been doing. Well, what have we been doing, Yvette? What are you talking about? What we have been doing and what we have done when I talk about how we're anchored. And when I talk about the Beyonce video, because it's not just the Beyonce video. You have to think about all of these movies that we have. Good stuff. I'm not saying this is not a good, great film. You have to see that all of these things have anchored us in some place that is not us. You cannot be anchored in something that is not of you. You know when you grow seeds and stuff, you have to grow them in the right soil or it just don't work. Certain soils have certain pH for it to grow. Know that? That's how it works. Ain't nothing you can do about it. That's just how it works. So when I look at a lot of the movies that we have seen, and I see how excited we get about them, so excited that we get about them that we not only, those are the movies we buy. We buy those movies a lot of times more than the movies that that are about us. So why do we do that? Why have we anchored ourselves in a soil that is not the pH? It's not the right fuel. It's not the right fuel for us in terms of the freedom struggle that we're fighting. Why have we done that? Well, we have created like this mythology around Africa, which makes no sense because there's no commonality between the countries on the continent of Africa. But we have sort of mythologized and gone around talking about we from kings and queens. And it's unfortunate myth making. But not only that, it's myth making that leads to something bad. So what do I mean? It leads to something bad. How could that lead to something bad? How could all this myth making lead to something that's negative? That don't make no sense, Yvette. Well, the thing is, you could take somebody who's in some hot water right now, Karen Atia. So when you make these movies, a lot of times, what happens is it creates a lot of division. It creates a lot of division amongst ADOS people. So you have stories like this one where Killmonger's trauma-fueled quest for Wakanda leaves behind a trail of dead and injured black women. For those on Team Killmonger, why are we so quick to overlook misogyny? So understand what Karen Atia was able to do. Now, she is American, although her lineage is not. She is able to now bond with ADOS women and create a division away from ADOS men and everybody else in the black community who agrees with Killmonger, because Killmonger was right, and also in the sense of if you have a bunch of warrior women, that means feminism is dead in that country, because those women is fighting. A woman who can fight can take a punch. Don't tell me about nobody getting strung up. Oh, he strung up the women. These women in this country got swords and all kind of stuff. They done got rid of that stuff. You talking about these are the Benin warriors. But how you gonna call them true revolutionaries when they're built after the people who traded, the women who were part of the kingdom who traded slaves? It doesn't make any sense, but it creates a lot of division. And if you take this article seriously, you have a lot of women who want to be these women as opposed to Fannie Lou Hamer, as opposed to Ella Baker, and all the women in our lineage who are proud of. We want to be these women. So then you have this out of step thing where you want to be the woman in the red or the bald head or whatever and do all that stuff, and it don't match who we are. I'm not saying you can't have a bald head. We got ADOS women who have bald heads, but I'm saying you try to mimic something that doesn't make sense, and it divides you from other people in your group. This becomes a problem, and it's certainly a problem in another sense. It's a problem in the sense that we don't need these people. I don't need none of these people. I don't like. It's great to have these fictional characters, and it's great to say, wow, that was a hero or whatever. But even if you go and get Superman tattooed on you, like, in a sense, you understand that Superman is fictional. If you go and get a Batman tattoo, you understand that Batman is fictional. we kind of intermix things with Wakanda where we really feel like this is somehow a representation of a heritage of ours. And so we keep it going and we try to Wakanda everything. And by Wakandaing everything, we erase our own history. There's nothing wrong with fiction. The problem with this kind of fiction isn't a problem in and of itself. The problem is, first of all, is that we can't even really see it as fiction. Like, we don't see it in the same way we watch fictional superheroes with other characters. You don't see it the same way y'all went and watch other Marvel movies in the same way. Right? It creates this whole argument around black men and black women and see misogyny noir and all this kinds of stuff. You don't see it the same way. And so when you don't see it as like a fictional movie, and when you lead it to be like, to idolize and to lead it to say, well, Killmonger was ADOS, and see, the problem is that we're wild, and the problem is, and see, yes, and these people are civilized, and it leads you to believe this mythologized Africa where they were civilized and they have culture, and we just don't have, and it's just like, no, this is a movie. Nothing wrong with it, but it's a movie. This is not a representation of something that they have that we don't have. But that's what we do. We make this into our own myth. And then we come home and say we were kings and queens. And instead of anchoring ourselves and saying that was just a movie. Or instead of making Black Panther about a Black Panther here in America doing Jim Crow, which has a history here actually, we say, yes, they have something that I don't. They have a culture that we don't. We make this fiction real. And we allow people even to make Killmonger into the enemy, and therefore make ADOS into the enemy. And we allow them to erase, even they say, well, Killmonger was African too. So you erase, wasn't the mother black? So you allow them to do that. It becomes a problem because it shouldn't. It's fiction. Shouldn't become as much of a problem. We should be like, we are who we are. That was fun. But we anchor ourselves in it. And we will rather tell an African story than an American story. So the same person who will go and watch Killmonger, the same person who will go and watch Lion King will tell you, I'm tired of slave movies. Now, slave movies are real. You can make a superhero. How come I've never seen a movie where on the big screen where a superhero, I'm not talking about just Django, I'm talking about like a superhero with a cape. Like intervenes in slave revolts. Right? Like, you have to ask yourself how much of that is our desire not to see ourselves. I'm not saying we can't see movies based in Africa the same way we see movies based in China, the same way we see movies that are set in all kinds of places throughout the world. But for reasons that don't make sense, those things are intermingled with ADOS. That's when it becomes trouble. It becomes trouble when those things are intermingled with us and we anchor ourselves in that Africanness, as opposed to our ADOSness, as if we have something to be ashamed of. Then we fight each other about it. Next thing you know, we're fighting about it. We having a whole big thing about it. Even with other movies, people will say, oh, women and men get into these whole conversations. Oh, I want an African man. And then women maybe like, y'all give me an African woman and she cook all the food. These are not beneficial conversations that we should be having. These are not good conversations. Any kind of movie or whatever that always leads to us debating and fighting amongst each other, we might need to rethink how we view it. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with coming to America, but like, I think I'm kind of over that. And I think African, I don't even know wasn't they from a fictional Zamunda or something too? I think Africans should be over that too. Like, these are regular people who live regular lives. They're not witch doctors and they're not wise men. They're ordinary people. And the moment to which we can come outside of ourselves and outside of what is our lostness and what we can't feel and who we can't be as a Zamunda. like in who we can't be, and oh, I wish I was them. Then we can see, we can't even see stuff as fiction, and we can't even see it as what it is, and we can't even enjoy our movies. Like I think that's part of the reason we don't see more of like our movies like out there, because I don't want to see no. Now, don't talk about what you don't want to see. I don't want to see no more slave movies. Talk about the kind of slave movie you want to see. You want to see more revolt movies? Okay, well they revolt. I understand that. It's a lot of revolt history, right? You want to see that? You want to see 1919, about how the men came back from the black men came back from the war and then took up arms against white people. You want to see a movie about that? That's a good movie too. It's a lot of good history in there to make some heroic kind of movies, fictional or kind of, what do you call it, superheroized or whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of stuff in there. It's a lot of stuff in there. But the question becomes, kind of, how are we so unwilling or embarrassed, or we feel we don't have history, or we're not proud of the history we have? Or you ever listen to somebody when they say we was kings, and that how they want to beat their chest, and it's almost like, listen, why would you say that anyway? Some people come from kings and queens, but some people come from spear chuckers. And that's no disrespect. I got in trouble for saying that like 8 years ago. But the two go together. Kings and queens. And peasants. All that goes together. I mean, you have to stop. Everybody has to stop this mythologizing of the continent of Africa. It don't make no sense. It's not a demigod. That's just not what we are. And so I just don't understand where we are in our thinking, that we get so lost here. When I say unlearn some things, I'm not saying unlearn that you could ever go see a movie that's set on the continent of Africa. I think you could. I think they can have their heroes. But part of what has to happen too, just as this country builds up heroes or whatever, like, we don't have to just build up heroes over there. Nobody's saying you can't have a movie set over there. But we have to start being okay with like building up movies that elevate our history. It's like we bury our shame in this king and queen narrative. We bury all of our shame, and we say, and the other thing we like to say is, well, our history didn't begin with slavery, Yvette, so why shouldn't I go and do it like that? My history, I don't know what you said, but my history didn't begin with slavery. Let me tell you what I think. I can only tell you what I think. I think the cord was cut on that ship. Now, it's true. It is true, absolutely true, that I'm sure we have ancestors that went beyond that, right? But that cord was cut. And it's not your fault, and it's not our fault. It's not my fault. We didn't sell nobody. The cord was cut by the people who sold us and the people who bought us. But that cord was cut. And then you entered a whole new era of life in a whole new world with a whole new freedom struggle, a whole new fight. And the only thing we've done since we've got here, we've worked and fought and worked and fought and worked and fought. And it is a glorious freedom struggle. So I really don't understand how you say, well, my history didn't begin here. The most consequential part of your life, who you are, was built here. It wasn't built nowhere else. It wasn't built nowhere else. Tell me what your cultural affinity is to somewhere else. I'm just saying, I'm not talking about just ethnicity. You ain't got to tell me that. Like, culturally, who are you? I'm not talking about the clothes you pick up that you don't know the history of. Who are you? Because we already talked about how the dashikis, the Indonesians didn't like the fabric and sold them sold the fabric to the Africans, and the ones who could afford them were the rich ones who were actually the ones who were more likely to have sold slaves. We already had that conversation, right? So I'm not talking about those clothes. I'm talking about here in this country. I'm just talking about here in this country. And what does Wakanda mean? If a Brahmin, Indian, Jamaican is using this fantastical African to signal that she's connected to ADOS, what it means is that it's just creating confusion. It's just creating confusion about who we are. And that's why what I said at the beginning, why are we having such problem with this moment? You're going to have a problem with all moments in your life if you are not secure in understanding who you are and what built you and what your specific traditions are. You can watch a movie. I watch a lot of movies all the time about traditions that people have in other countries. It's wonderful. It's absolutely, some of those things are wonderful and beautiful. But you have to understand, you still have to understand what is you and what is not you. And you still have to understand that this Wakanda ain't even Africa. Maybe some of the things we saw in the movie mimic some of the traditions, but Wakanda doesn't exist. The same for Lion King, the same for Beyonce's video. I don't even know what that was. There was a lot going on in that video. I feel like somebody put a spell on me just watching it. Y'all saw that black is, what was it, child? Black is life, black is God. I don't know. Somebody tell me what it is. Black is something. Black, what was it? Black is, somebody tell me what it was. I don't know what it was. But I know it was some, and you know what? The thing you just wonder, somebody said it on Twitter. Somebody told the truth on Twitter, said, I wonder what this would have been like if like this had been a bunch of ADOS. If like this, because we've seen that before, right? Who did that? Was it the Grammys or something? Black is King. Thank you, fam. What would this have looked like? Because you don't know anything about this culture that you're putting up here with this king and this I don't know, the woman with the sheep wrapped around her. I don't know what's going on. We don't know nothing about that. And I don't know, I don't know why everybody keeps, and I think it's kind of a trope. It's kind of, I would think it'd be, maybe not to the people in this country because they kind of traffic it on it. Africans in this country sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. But I would think these tropes would be tiresome for actual people who live in actual African countries. Just tired of being thought of as these caricatures. But I'm tired of this where we build up people who come out of ADOS traditions, and then they want to kind of supplant themselves in very, I don't even know if it's an African tradition at this point. I see a lot of people in African countries like living regular lives. I don't even know what this is. This imagination that ADOS has. And I think too much of it comes from shame. I'm just going to say it. Too much of it comes from shame. And so part of what happens, you know how we always talk about, like you're walking on the shoulders, of your ancestors. You on the shoulders of greatness, right? We always kind of talk about that. To a certain extent. But I don't think there's something else that doesn't happen when we have those conversations about the shoulders of the ancestors. Sometimes your feet on the wrong shoulders. Hear me out. Ancestors in this country, they were the freedom struggle. So if you're going to try to count on anybody for wisdom, it's these people. These are the people whose blood and bones have died. They have fought white supremacy in this country. Whose shoulders are you standing on? You could very well be standing on the shoulders of somebody who sold you over here in the first place. Stand on the right shoulders, please. There are ancestors who fought for us to have full citizenship here. who were hung from trees and revolted and did all sorts of stuff to fight white supremacy, risk life and limb here. You don't got to go all the way back there to the Serengeti or wherever the heck this is. You ain't got to go there. It's right here. There's no need to fetishize. Stop fetishizing like this mythological places have advanced. This is not even a thing anymore. And you wouldn't even know about it. You wouldn't even know about it if you wouldn't even know if it wasn't, because this is not your culture. Right? So if this is right or wrong, what's happening here, how would you know? We don't do whatever's going on right here. This is not nothing we do. I ain't never seen this nowhere. I don't know what kind of ritual this is. We have our own traditions and religious rituals, whether you like them or not. And don't tell me about, well, Yvette, our religious rituals ain't got us out of slavery. Well, a lot of countries in Africa ain't too good of a pickle either. So I don't know if you can look over there. I'm not saying you can't do what you want to do, but let's not play games with each other. See, the thing is, I think we have to understand something. And I think it's necessary. Maybe it shouldn't be necessary, but it is. Part of what we experience in America in terms of people be like, when Africans versus ADOS got into it last week or whatever, they said, well, y'all are suffering and getting shot down by the police and y'all don't have no money. Well, us not having money is in the context of white wealth in America, which is outsized and humongous and unlike any other time in the world. That is the context in which we're having the conversation. That's why I say I don't trade. I would not trade my journey now, and I would not trade the ADOS journey now to be a part of any king or queen legacy anywhere else. You were born where you're supposed to be born. Stop trying to anchor yourself somewhere where your seed don't grow. I just don't understand it. Maybe somebody can explain that to me over the call. But the way I see it, I'm just telling you the way I see it. You can't unring that bell. And I don't even know why you want to unring it. I don't even know why you want to cross the water and try to anchor yourself in something else. A movie's a movie. We need more of our movies here, but a movie's just a movie. The only reason I had a problem with Wakanda is because of how Killmonger was rendered, and the fact that ADOS went around thinking they was Wakanda and doing all this stuff like little crazy people, when the little Black Panther man was in with the CIA and helped the white man kill the Black Liberation Movement. That's the problem I had with it. But if it didn't have all that stuff going on, I might have just been okay, even though I want to see more of my own movies. And if we're going to do black movies, let them be. Let's talk ADOS. I don't want to keep mythologizing an imaginary Africa. Enough of that for right now. But I will see that movie. I'll watch it. Just like I'll watch a movie about in England or whatever. And they're having tea at the height of the day. Top of the day to you. High tea. I'll watch that. I'll watch anything. But I know it's fiction. I'm not invested in it at all. And we didn't even go see, people say, well, people get dressed up for Star Wars. No, we want to step above that. We didn't just get dressed up how people get dressed up for Star Wars. And they know it's fiction. They playing around and stuff like that. No, we really got pumped up and invested and really thought we was doing something. And finally a movie about us. Who is us? This is a movie about an imaginary African kingdom that hid itself from us while we suffered. You're going to elevate them. Why? And there was a lot of truth in that. And I don't think that truth was pro them. But I don't even understand why they us. We go, who? No. They didn't want Killmonger. If you interpret that movie right, they didn't want you or me. Go see a movie, have fun with it. But I don't understand these kind of wild interpretations. And I don't understand why everybody from Beyonce, and then we have to have all these conversations. So we end up having a whole bunch of conversations about Africa and all this other stuff. And you know, we don't have nearly enough conversations about us. If you want to talk about, you know, we got a lot of heroes in the movement we could talk about. Some that we don't really talk about a lot. We could make movies. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen the image of Gloria Richardson, right? Like, we got a lot of heroes that we don't ever talk about. We could do something about it. Or we could just keep trying to be fake Wakanda and keep trying to plant a seed in the soil where it won't grow. We could keep trying to stand on heroes ain't our heroes. They somebody's heroes and not ours. And that's no disrespect. I don't mean no disrespect. But if you take it disrespectfully, I don't really care, if that makes sense. We got to decide, instead of just saying, I don't want to see any more of these kind of movies or whatever, we just got to decide which kind do we want to see. That's all. Because we have to unlearn these things. We can't have every time we want to feel positive about ourselves. Every time we want to feel positive about ourselves, we can't want to see an African movie just to feel positive about ourselves. Any superhero can like touch that part of yourself that makes you feel strong. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we use superheroes and we only see strength in African heroes. That's it. We don't see strength in nothing we do and nothing we did. Oh, we were slaves. We I don't want to see the more slave stuff. I don't want to see that. Well, you want to see the people who came out of slavery and like how they? I don't want to see that. I don't see that. I want to see we was kings. Yeah, you got to come out of that. We got to come out of that. And the thing is, I think one of the things that helps us come out of that is if we know our own history. Part of the problem is that we don't know enough of our own history to know that we got a lot of like really wonderful stories that we can be proud of embedded in our own history. That's one of the problems. You got to know your history. If you don't know your history, anybody can just take advantage of you and tell you that you're the son of a cotton picker. It's easy to do. Well, you ain't never did nothing. Your people ain't never da-da-da-da-da-da. And we be like, well, I guess they didn't. I guess they's right. I was thinking about this book. I haven't read it yet, The Black Cabinet. This might be a book club book, but I'm bringing that up just to bring up. Let me bring it up a second. The Untold Story of African Americans and Politics During the Age of Roosevelt. And the only reason I bring this up is because I hear so many people, when I talk about people saying ignorant things, I hear so many people say like, well, we never did try. We never did do nothing. We could have did something, but we ain't do nothing, and we just let people get carried away, and we just let people, and we should have got involved in politics, and we should have we did all of that. Our freedom struggle is grand. Don't let nobody lie to you. Everything that we have done in the most mechanized and white supremacist place in the world has been superb. We ain't won yet. We won some battles, ain't won the war, but we still at it. I don't know how you look at what we do and what we have done and say, I want Wakanda. As a fictional Marvel movie, knock yourself out. Except I would like the original Black Panther. But but why are y'all seeing yourselves in this king and queen stuff all the time? It's becoming a serious, serious problem. Listen, you have to, if you want like a strong culture, and if you want cultural traditions, which are important to any group and any community, then you have to respect yourself. And when I say respect yourself, I don't mean this stupid stuff Republicans or right wingers or all these other people talk about in terms of respect yourself, in terms of pull your pants up or stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you have to respect yourself in the sense of respect your culture, respect your community. You can see fiction all day the same way somebody in a different culture can go see a ADOS movie, right? And they still know at the end of the day that's not me. You have to be able to do that, because if you anchor yourself somewhere where your anchor doesn't take root and it doesn't stay and it doesn't hold, or if you're not anchored what happens is we're just dust in the wind. And that's kind of what we are. We just kind of feel lost everywhere. So we don't feel like America is our country, so we lost. And we don't feel like Africa is our country or our continent, which makes no sense. So we lost. And so, yes, you have to anchor yourself. And after 400 years, yeah, we're anchored here. Just anchor yourself here and let it be that. Be okay with that. You don't gotta go do all this and try to remake Wakanda. We got a lot of stuff. I kind of would like to have seen some of that. Some of who we are and what we've done and our rich traditions. I would like to have seen some of that in Beyonce's video. I would have. I would have liked to see some of it, but I didn't get to see it. Because, y'all know, kings and queens and whatever was going on here. Because of Lion King, something, I don't know. I just think we would rather, as people, we would rather hold up the traditions of other people rather than ourselves. And so when you go back to kind of everything that we're living through from coronavirus and everything that's happening in this moment, well, part of the reason why we're not reacting right in this moment is that we're not anchored anywhere. So if you say, why isn't this ship like, it's a storm. The ship is supposed to be anchored. This ship never anchored anywhere. Like, we were here, we should have anchored. And we had our people anchored. We had people who fought to be citizens in this country a long time ago. But I'm talking about who we are now. At some point, we just decided to like pull up anchor. Well, you ain't have nowhere else to put down anchor. So what you was pulling up anchor for and for what? How? So how do we see if you're not strongly anchored in a place, you can't like, if you don't have an anchor somewhere, when a storm comes, and COVID is a storm, a plague is a storm. But if you haven't anchored yourself in who you are and in your traditions, gosh, I wish I had brought up, there was a great story about a plague and how some a while ago, and how some black people, some ADOS in this country navigated around it and did really well, but as a community. And I say that to say, if you are not anchored, if we're not anchored, we're not ready for any storm. And we are not anchored where we should be anchored, which is right here. We put down root, and then all of a sudden we tore it out, and it don't really make no sense. And that's how we're here now, and that's how we're lost. And we have to put down root. We have to put that anchor down. Because the anchor is the only thing that keeps you from floating off into the ocean or getting overturned when the storm comes. And I mean, there's no better time than now. There's no better time to be proud of, like, if you read the history of who we are, which has really been a spectacular journey in this country. So I'm going to get off right now. That's enough said for me in terms of our unlearning, and unlearning needs to happen. I will let you all have your say. Give me just a few minutes to set up les phones, and I will be back, and we will have the conversation. We are back, fam. We are back. It's always so funny when people talk to me about like we was once kings. We was kings and queens in Africa. It's like, the kings and queens in Africa sold your black ass over here. Don't you understand? The kings and queens sold slaves. That's how you got here. You want to be the people that sold you? Oh my God, we just got to root ourselves. We got to do better at rooting. We done rooted ourselves. We have anchored ourselves. Understand how sick it is. Like, we have anchored ourselves in the people who sold us here. Like, the flesh trade was going on in Africa, and it wasn't just to white people. It was to Arabs and all kinds of people. And you wanted to be a king and a queen. Those are the people. Like, remember what we said about when my great grandfather, Nigerian slave trade or whatever. Remember when she talked about like who he was and how he was buried or something? I think was it him with a bunch of slaves with him who were alive. So they were buried alive. That's what kings were. You want to be a king? Slaves, where they were, and traded slaves over here. They were part of the flesh trade. Stop saying that. Stop telling me you want to be kings and queens. You want to be the people who sold you over here. Like, stop. Y'all got to stop with all this weird kind of propaganda stuff going on. But anyway, let me go to the first call. I'm going to 862. 862, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, how you doing? I'm calling from Philly. My name is Jay.
Hey, Jay, how you doing?
I'm very good, very good. So I have like a 3-part question. It's not too much. I would really like to sort this out. I think that our people pretty much do not understand why we are identifying as a group. And I think they do not understand our position in racial capitalism. And I wanted to ask you what do you think we can do to start emphasizing to our people more that we exist in a racial capitalist society? The second part of my question is, do you think Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialists believe that we are in a racial capitalist society?
I know. I think they're. Well, let me just answer your first question, and then I go to the second one. Well, I can answer the second one first. I think the Bernie people are raceless. Like, I think they believe that like we can just make everybody equal and forget about race. They believe class is the thing that really matters. Race doesn't matter, and so they kind of erase race. You see the recently the Atlanta Democratic Socialist of America guy recently resigned and basically kind of said he couldn't escape like race and stuff within the Democratic Socialists of America, right? So you see that. Somebody can look that up. I think it's on what was it, Mike, Medium, whichever one of those it is. The second part about your question about racial capitalists, getting people to understand that. Listen, if you can't get people to understand who they are, forget about everything that comes after that. I'm talking just identity. That you are ADOS. That's who you are. I think that's first. If you can't get people, like, if I can't teach you your name, I don't know what else I can teach you. I got to teach you your name first. You know, that's when you go to kindergarten and get little fat pencils and you got to write your name. You start to write your name in kindergarten. You have to write your name with a little fat pencil on a little piece of paper. That's your first thing. I have to learn to write my name. Like, if you don't understand who you are, and because that who you are says a lot. Like, who you are within this American descendant of slavery as the institution. Okay, then from that you can learn, well, what was the institution? What did this institution do in terms of racializing things, in terms of economics, in terms of how capitalism robbed ADOS? Then you can learn all that. But if I can't get you to say your name, right, I don't know what else I can do. That's first.
Well, what I want to say is, I think because, like, we know, I think the people that watch your program are a little more advanced on the political level, and we also understand that there was supposed to be 2 phases of the civil rights movement. One was integration of physical spaces. The other was integration economically.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, I don't, because the second part never happened, it's very difficult. I find it very, very, very difficult to have a conversation with my people about, they think we're integrated economically.
Oh, yeah,
they think, oh, this is all fixed.
Yeah, oh, they do. They do. They don't understand that we were never integrated economically. The engines of wealth in terms of banks and everything that comes with it, we never got access to that. And if you don't get access to that, you don't get access to America. Period. Point blank. It's over. And they don't understand it. But they don't understand it, too, because they don't understand white life. I really wish I could make all ADOS invisible for like a month. And we could go just into the life, well, but pre-COVID, I really wish it happened. It would be better then. But we could still go into the life of like people who are upper middle, right? And upper class. And I'm just talking about upper class, elite, and all of that. Middle, like not the poor people, because they fall in too. I really wish we could go into the life. And like, just because we used to be butlers and maids and stuff, right? And I'm not saying that was good or right, but what that did give ADOS was a lens into, do you know how these people is living? They got all the money. Like, they got all the wealth. So we were in the house. We didn't say nothing. We were yes, ma'am, yes, sir. But we saw how they were living, and we saw how unequal it was. I think now white people go around, and what happened is they wear the same clothes as us, and they don't tell the truth.
Yep.
They say, man, how you doing? Man, I'm making it. And then you be like, oh, he's just like me. He doesn't tell you what he has. So there's a lot of deception that goes in that maintains these relationships. I think back in the day when you could really overhear conversations about what was going to be inherited and who was going to get what, you really understood more about like what white life really was built of. And I think, I think we don't understand it as much because we really think that our life is life. Like, we think we have a life with these little homes they sell us, and we think like we have an American life. When you see what American life looks like, you will feel like fighting or something. You will feel like, oh, I gotta get busy on my politics. This is horrible. This is unfair.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. People. They just don't understand that we're almost to the point where we don't even have enough to live here, and that's a major problem with globalism that's coming and everything else. And I just want to say one last thing, and I'll get out your way. Do you think that if we had reparations, would that be the end, probably, to the capitalist system that we know? It's my opinion that it would be, because I think more white people would experience the economic floor of capitalism. And,
well,
they would start to rebel and want to change the system.
Well, I think it would. I don't think it would end capitalism totally, but I think what would happen is you would see a system more like what you see in a lot of European countries, where you can only fall so far, right? You will have a much robust welfare system because you will see a lot more white people and other people of color who aren't ADOS at the bottom, but a lot more white people. And when you see a lot of white people on the bottom, what's going to happen when you see a lot of white people on the bottom is those white people are going to advocate for policies that uplift them and that make sure that they can't fall so far. Right now, nobody cares about how far you fall on the bottom, because that's disproportionately Negroes, right? So I'm not really invested in the fact, and white poverty is different than black poverty. So I'm not really invested in like doing a lot of that welfare work, because it's not me or my people down there. What happens is when you shift a bunch of $8 up, and somebody's got to eat the failure, so you're gonna shift a bunch of other people down. Then you have people on the bottom saying, I don't want to be here. Now I'm not saying and you have America saying we have to do something about this. Like, people are falling on the bottom who aren't ADOS, because ADOS got reparations, but that's why they don't want to change the hierarchy in general. Because the minute we start getting reparations, because for me, reparations isn't one payment. It's a multi-generational plan. The same thing that happens with the Jewish community. They stand in the shoes. So it's not just the people right after the Holocaust. You're talking generations down the line that you have to help with, not only with policies, but also with payments, and also with grants and all sorts of things. So for me, like, when you see that, people are going to say, oh my gosh, like now if they're not on the bottom, I might take their place. And see, that's always been the problem though. Nobody wants to take our place. So
Absolutely.
That goes to your point. That goes to your point, fam.
Let me get out your way. Thank you.
No, appreciate it, fam. But that goes to his point. Nobody wants to take our place. So then what happens is, I think they do. change capitalism, because capitalism negates that somebody's on that bottom. And I think when we're not on the bottom anymore, nobody's going to want to be there. So then there's going to be a shift. But that's awful. It's only going to be a shift because, like, what's good for you individually. I'm going to my next caller. I am going to 424. I'm coming to you, 424. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette. This is Aaron calling from California.
Hey, Aaron. How you doing? Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm well, thank you. So, for the reason my calling is, I'm just sort of beside myself. It's 2020, and here we are still fetishizing this idea of a mass exodus to a place that doesn't exist, and I'm not sure ever existed. And kind of to draw a point to last week's show with the Africans who felt that Americans are making fun of them and, sort of throwing that jagger, you don't know your origins.
Yeah.
To that, I would say no. I don't care about my origin because I know that I'm rooted here. More specifically, I understand that hierarchy is ubiquitous, and I understand, too, that it's never so bad that it can't get worse. More specifically, it's never so bad here in America, where my blood equity is, that it can't be worse someplace else. And to draw a point to that, if you look at, if you watch international news, the BBC or PBS, or even listen to NPR, if you listen to what's going on with Turkey, and you have this sort of influx of Syrian refugees, they're at the very bottom. They have no social buffers. You have people sleeping in the streets, police brutality, children prostituting themselves just to provide themselves. So I don't want that for me or my ADOS family to be another wealthless group migrating to a country where we won't be even lower on the totem poles. So in my daily life, I'm a doctor. Mm-hmm. And many of my patients are at the very bottom of America's socioeconomic status. And with this COVID-19, with the sudden loss of income, I have patients canceling, and they're not coming in to get their daily medications, and they're already at the bottom. And as one of your shows, you made mention that the Department of Labor Statistics, that 63 to 68% of ADOS in America make $30,000 or less, and all of that income now is just gone. So to continue to fetishize going to this place that doesn't exist with no wealth, and now we don't even have the mechanisms to provide daily sustenance, is just absolutely obscene at this point. And kind of to piggyback on the last caller, so my lineage, my mother was a CNA, my dad was a mechanic, I was born and raised in Compton, California. I became a doctor because my mother broke the law. She enrolled me in a school district that we didn't belong to, and because she put me in a situation where there were opportunities, there were people who took interest in me and sort of developed me into who I became. And those opportunities are systemically and institutionally removed from communities where ADOS live. So we have no idea what it will, I kind of do, but most people don't really understand what life is like outside of ADOS communities, and if those opportunities that have been systematically removed from our communities were put back in, we would see a drastic difference in job prospects and hopefully maybe even economic prospects, in addition to seeking reparations that are so desperately needed.
Well, what you're talking about too is like, it's a pipeline to opportunity as opposed to a pipeline to prison, right? So you're talking about just plugging, exactly. And that's one of the things I talked about even in terms of reparations, like in terms of mentors. And I'm talking about mentors across the board. If you want to make us one America, I need all of them to kind of to bring us into the fold, because one of the things that you always find, when you read about people who have done well in life and been whatever, like a lot of those people have mentors, and not just one mentor. A lot of people have had different mentors at different parts of their life, and it's like, those are things that we need to have as well and be plugged into. Need to be plugged into a good school system. Need to be plugged into mentors and people who care about you and people who see something good in you and are encouraging of that and pay attention to you and say, I was talking to somebody not too long ago about when people have kids, you have to pay attention to that kid and see what that kid is good at. You look at that kid and kind of figure that kid out. Okay, I see what he does. I see what she's good at right here. And so, like, You have to have people who pay attention and develop those parts of you. You're right. And I think that we don't understand how important that is. We just say, oh, Adolf, this person should have done this. This person should have done that. And it's just like, no, the environment, a plant grows according to the soil. I hate to use so many plant analogies, but a plant grows according to the soil. If you put a plant in bad soil, it's just going to die. If you put it in real good soil and you take care of it, it's going to flourish. And we haven't been put in good soil.
My mother said to me after she went to the parent-teacher conference at my first grade school in Compton, and afterwards she withdrew me. And many, many years later, she told me later, she said, I went there and all I could smell was a stench of urine, and I looked around and I didn't see opportunities, I didn't see resources, I did not see the ingredients necessary to make you successful in life. So I did what I did, and I don't think she regretted it, but she did want me to understand or have some sort of sense of, I guess, ethics to understand what's right and wrong. And she explained that to me because she said she went there and she didn't see anything that would make someone successful in America in those conditions.
Well, let me just say kudos to your mother. And let me just say this. That's what you have to do as a parent, though. Like, I don't even think, and it's hard for us to do it because we're Adolf sometimes and the situation they put us in, but you have to always be kind of looking out and like, is this situation good for my kid? Like, you have to be willing to do whatever. Okay, I got to figure a way. And now, but see, now they've done it to where they can't, they locked the woman up. They've locked black women up now for putting their kids in different systems. They've gone and criminalized, like putting your school. Now the white women, they can put their kids through college with all kind of fake documents and fake lacrosse teams, but now they've got it to where we can't even do that. So now you got to have reparations because you get criminalized for just sending your kid to another school system. But kudos to your mom. That was cool.
That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you, fam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You have a good one. I am going. Good call. I appreciate him. Yeah, good mama. So she looked at. You got to be able to look at the ingredients. And America takes a lot of ingredients. Sometimes you walk into a place, you're trying to bake a cake, and it's only an egg sitting there. You can't. That's just breakfast. That's not even really breakfast. You got no toast. You got no jelly, no jam. Like, no, it's just an egg. That's not gonna make a cake. And so sometimes you got to understand what the ingredients are in a thing. But if you don't know what the ingredients are, you don't even know when you walk into the room that like, okay, the ingredients aren't here for success. You got to know that. You got to know what it is. So anyway, I'm going to my next call. I am going to 917. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello?
What's going on, 917? What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, my name is James, calling from New York City. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself? How's New York?
New York is fine. I guess, we got hit with it, but supposedly the numbers are going down, so, that's a good thing to hear, right?
Our numbers going up, so good for y'all. Kudos.
So, Yvette?
Yep.
A little bit nervous. This is my first time calling in, but I got a lot to say. Let me see if I can get it all out.
Okay.
So, Yvette, I've been listening to you for 2 years. You and Tona are just so insightful. It actually blows my mind sometimes with a lot of stuff that you say. And I've actually even made a playlist of some of my favorite episodes from the last few years that you have done.
Okay, that's cool.
Because it's just so necessary. These things are timeless. Regarding this topic, I actually have a lot to say because I'm born and raised here in New York.
Okay.
Black American, but my parents are actually Jamaican.
Okay.
And so I grew up in a very Pan-African household. We got ties to Marcus Garvey. My great aunt or whatever she is was actually the wife of Marcus Garvey.
Oh, wow.
So, when I was growing up as a kid in the 80s and 90s, my parents would always take me to go and hear, like the great historians like Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Scobie, Leonard Jeffries, all these guys that wrote all these books and did all these, great African kings and queens stories of yesteryear.
Yeah.
That's who my parents would have me go to see when I was a kid all the time. They would have me go and marching when Al Sharpton, and his United African Movement organization would do marches against, police brutality or whatever other killings against black folk. That's the life that I grew up in,
Yeah.
And one of the things that I came to realize is that, tying it into what you're saying, is that a lot of black people have come to believe these stories of all these great kings and queens in Africa, that's how we were living before the European came. I don't believe that.
It's not true.
But be that as it may, black Americans here are the most progressive black people in the entire black diaspora. You guys have helped build the greatest country in the history of the world. The issue is that, and look, I get racism and everything, Jim Crow, slavery, redlining, all of that. But I think black people are actually ashamed of their heritage not their heritage. They were ashamed that they were enslaved here at some point. They were ashamed of having gone through Jim Crow, but not fully realizing, look, the answer doesn't lie in what you think that you were doing in Africa before the European came. The answer lies in the fact that you built this country. This is yours. You are owed a debt. Making up some fictitious stories about what you may or may not have been won't help you settle that debt here. It's kind of interesting because what I've been seeing over the last couple of months, particularly on social media, I've been seeing a bunch of black people talking about getting up and moving outside of America, and a lot of times they're throwing out places in Africa. And sometimes even they talk from countries in the Caribbean. Let me tell you something from a perspective of and I'll use Jamaica, but I have a lot of African friends, and we talk about these things.
Okay.
You don't understand that the game that foreign blacks run on black Americans here about, you don't have a culture or whatever. Listen, when they say that, what they're really saying is that these places are rooted in never changing. Meaning, when they talk about you don't have a culture, and when they say that they have a culture and you don't, what they really are meaning to tell you is that, listen, we have these rules that we've had for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, but nothing ever changes. That's why they have to come to America in order to actually affect change. The ones that come here actually help to affect change in those places. Look, I'm going to tell you about how Jamaica works. If the Caribbeans that left Jamaica don't end up be able to come to America, they couldn't affect any change in Jamaica because they won't do it. They won't listen. Even people that go back home from America to retire in Jamaica, they have no sway there because they don't regard. Listen to me. They don't regard Jamaicans that went abroad to go and work and live in America, in England, in Canada. They don't regard them as real Jamaicans when they come back home.
Ooh.
I'm not making this up. And I've heard this from African friends from different friends from different African countries, particularly West African countries. This is the same thing. You can only get but so far when you come back home. Because really what they're saying is that you didn't go through the struggle of having to stay and live there and grow up there.
Yeah.
You got to go to essentially the land of milk and honey. And look, I get it that for black Americans here, you didn't get to reap the benefits. But you guys opened the doors so that all these other places could actually exist. Listen, for a lot of these countries, Yvette, if it wasn't for the fact that their population were able to leave and send back remittances, they would fall into anarchy, total collapse.
Talk about it.
This is not me like trying to suck up. I'm telling you, I've seen this. It's so funny. I'm going to tell you why I was really, the first time I really was like, okay, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. You always talk about the role of government, the role of government, big government. And I remember the first time I heard you say that, and I was laughing because this was a couple of years ago, and I had just come back from Jamaica. And listen, Yvette, when something needs to be getting done. Maybe a road needs to get paved, or people go out into the streets and they hold up signs and they say, we need government, we need government. They don't say we need the private sector. They don't say we need to pull our streets up pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. They say we need government. Yeah. When you look at the news, because I watch the news in Jamaica, I watch it every day. And I also catch some of the news in some of these West African countries. It's just out of interest that I have. Okay. And I speak to my friends all the time. Listen, this is what people are looking for. They're not, but their governments are just ineffective. So when not you, but when some of these black people are talking about, we're going to pick up and move to Africa, look, this is the cruelest irony. That the truth is that America is the greatest country in the world, even for black people, regardless. Listen, you can go anywhere that you want. You think you're going to go there and there won't be a problem with the level of tribalism that exists? So what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the gay black Americans? What's going to happen with the feminist black Americans? What's going to happen with the trans black Americans? You can be who you want to be in America because you created the America that allowed that.
And fam, we're not tribal. So like it's not like we're not gonna chase nobody with machetes in the street because you come from somebody else, somewhere else. That's not who we are. So we create it's a very fertile ground here in terms of what ADOS has created. And I just I'm gonna let you finish, but I just have a problem with, like, it's almost like people be like, well, who do you think you are? What you mean?
No, but Yvette, it's just game. Like what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to tell you, when they say these things, when people from the continent or whatever say these things, it's game that they're hitting you with, but it's game that they're saying to make themselves feel better. Listen. It's a third world continent. I don't care. Listen, I don't care what anybody wants to tell you. It's a third world continent. The power still goes out.
Ooh.
Yes, you have to get up at a certain time to have water. I don't care what they tell you. Even in Jamaica right now, where the footstep of America, yes, the power, it doesn't go out as much as it used to. Let's just say 10 years ago, but sometimes it'll go out. My parents were they were retired in Jamaica. Okay. They have to get up at a certain time to get the shower because there's not going to be enough water pressure, and sometimes the water goes out and they just have to wait. They got to wait until the evening time. So when I go to visit them, you need to get up and get a shower by 7 o'clock, or else you're not going to have water again until later. This is a fact of life. You're going to pick up and leave America to go these places? Look, me. I'm not saying as an individual or as an individual family that there aren't better places. But I'm just saying, if you're going to get 500,000 black people from America to just pick up and go to any one of these places, that's going to create a problem.
But let me just say this, fam. Let me say why we don't understand that, fam. We don't understand that because we don't understand how American we are. And we don't understand how accustomed to certain things we are. I don't care if you're if you are living in the hood. If you paid your light bill, when you get up in the morning, you flick that light, it's going to come on. And I don't think we understand how accustomed we are to, dare I say it, a Western way of life. And we try to kind of reject that and say, no, I could just, that's not everything. No, this is who you are. You've grown up with this life. You can't grow up this way with this kind of life and this way of life and be accustomed and acculturated to it and then go somewhere else where, like, you have all these brownouts and you got to get out and your whole half a car fall in a pothole. You can't, it's hard. I don't know. I mean, I was in Liberia years and years ago. And like, it wasn't no street lights, and I thought I was gonna poop my pants. Like, what am I supposed to do with no street lights? I got bad vision. What the hell going on? I don't even think we understand, and we don't understand. Like, in a lot of these countries, stuff could pop off because they have a history. So there were people checking passports with machine guns. I'm not ready for that. I'm not built for that. Like, I don't even think we understand this kind of stuff we built for. I'm not built for this kind of nonsense where you stop me with a machine gun. I might wet my pants. And so you realize in those moments, I'm American. I'm not used to this. I'm used to, like, I might get a little shaky when a police officer pulls behind or whatever. Like, oh Lord, what he want? Hope he get in the other lane. That's not the same thing as this. We even try to flatten bad experience into, well, we have police officers and they have coups. They ain't the same thing. It's not the same. What we suffer through is awful in the context of America and what we built in our contribution. We try to create a sameness, though. It's not like them people. I remember when the whole return to Ghana happened, and one thing they didn't talk about, there was a Ghanaian woman that actually went on to Facebook and said, a lot of Americans, a lot of Black Americans who came here are getting sick, and said the liquor ain't right. Like, a lot of the Ghanaians, I don't know where they watered down, they bought it from somewhere else, but the liquor was making Americans sick. And I was thinking about the fact that, I got sick too, and we don't even think about it in terms of our Constitution, for lack of a better word, in terms of, like the stuff that you might.
It's true. It's
yeah,
so true.
we don't even think about that. You grow up in a certain environment, and that's kind of what your body does. And we don't even think about the fact that you can't go anywhere and do anything. You be half dead. Who was it that was in Ghana and got sick and couldn't get home? It was all kinds of stuff going. But I'll let you have the last word, fam.
Man, it just goes so far and so deep. It's overwhelming to try to get it all out there. But I think what I will say is that the foundations that Black Americans have laid. Listen, my mother is a nurse. Okay, let me tell you the story. My mother's a nurse. My mother, when she was young in Jamaica, she ended up having to go to England for midwifery. So she started to be a midwife, and she eventually became a nurse. And then she actually ended up moving to the States. This was like in maybe the very early 70s, like 1970, 71, something like that. My mother told me they didn't allow Black Americans to become nurses.
Yep.
My mother was telling me these things.
Yep.
The home care department that my mother worked in, my mother retired maybe about 12, 13 years ago. There weren't really that many, if any, Black Americans. They were all Caribbean or African nurses. And
some Haitians too, and there's some Haitian nurses they brought in too. Yep.
And actually a lot of Filipinos.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
But these are things that my parents told me. My father, listen to this. My father was an electrician. He learned his craft in Jamaica.
Okay.
And then my father told me when he came up here, what would happen was, he's like, he'd get a job at a factory or whatever. And he said, come time for the day to end, the Black Americans would go home. And so he said, listen, it's not that the Black Americans were lazy, it's that the Black Americans knew their rights.
Yeah, the Black Americans were Americans.
The day is over, I'm going home.
Yeah, I fought for 8 hours. We fought for a 40-hour work week. So 8 hours over, going home. Yeah, that's the American way.
Exactly. If the Caribbean or the African wants to stay on the job to make more money, he can do that. But yeah, he's trying to send money back home in the case of the Jamaican to however many people are back in Jamaica. Listen, it's not that these stereotypes that Black Americans have been labeled with from these other Blacks. I'm telling you, it's just to gas y'all up. And what happens is that I find, Black Americans, if you're at the top of the mountain, there's nowhere else to go. Like, America is the top of the mountain. Yeah. You may not believe it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about you going to leave to go, I'm going to go back at where?
Not me, child.
Listen, it's a joke, and they know it's a joke. That's why they laugh at Black Americans sometimes, because they say it's not that they don't acknowledge that you're facing racism and white supremacy here, although they for a fact don't know the true history of it. But I mean, I have other views on that. Your show has made me fully understand that Black Americans themselves don't know the true depths of Jim Crow, of racism and white supremacy here in America. And so they fantasize about moving back to some place in which they had a glorious history or whatever. And I never hear any of my African friends talk about that they were kings and queens. They'll just say, yeah, we have a chief here, a chief there. They never talk about these big, huge empires that I hear Black Americans talking about. These are some of the fake news and alternative facts. Listen, my view on it is that a lot of these stories were crafted to help Black Americans raise up and lift themselves out of the negative self-beliefs that they had about being here in America and generationally being here in America. But those historians, where they fail, is not teaching you about the richness, the true richness of your history and what you built here in this country.
Yep.
Why are you talking about what you built in Egypt? Negro, you got taken from West Africa. Egypt is on the whole other side of the damn continent. There's two different peoples. There's ethnically two different peoples. You cannot have built those places.
We just make it up to go along.
It's not possible.
Yeah, we just make it up. We don't know.
No, but Yvette, I grew up in this stuff. I used to believe it, and I understand why. Yvette, when you hear these things, it's intoxicating.
Oh, wow.
Especially when you grow up seeing how the community is being ravaged by drugs, by guns, by unemployment. These are perpetual systems of degradation in the Black community. And so I understand why these false philosophies, because I believe that they're false. I understand why they're so alluring.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to think about then is this. If these countries had such great empires, and if the European himself admitted that he was backwards, that he was primitive, how then could the European come and then just take over these great advanced empires as easy as he did? Has nobody ever thought about that? Meaning, if we had all these great empires before the European came, and the European himself acknowledges we had poor sanitation, we were in the Dark Ages, we were just 100 years out of the Black Plague, which eradicated in some parts of Europe 50-60% of the population. It actually reformed the very social structure of their societies, that Black Plague. Then how is it that they can come over there? I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to just cut it short. They sold us.
Yeah.
They sold us.
Yeah, but and I believe
so simple.
Yeah, and I believe what happened, fam, is they sold us, and then what happened was, that's kind of why they fell off a cliff too, is because the flesh trade ended. But not only did they sell, fam, and you talking, with Caribbean ancestry, slaves and slaves over here. Not only did they sell us, what happened was eventually white America said, yeah, I'm not gonna buy it. I ain't gotta listen to you no more. Like you done sold off like enough people that you're kind of weak now. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing what I want to do with you. And they set themselves up for a lot of stuff. But I'll let you have to finish up, fam.
Yeah, it's like Black Americans here. You've got to realize when people are running game on you. Like I find like what's happened here is that they so long, Black people here, Black Americans so long for some sort of a connection someplace, in this case Africa, that they just let people run game on them. And it's kind of odd because Black Americans are the ones that usually are able to peep game better than anyone else. Like, Black people in America can peep white people's game better than Black people anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I know this for a fact because when I talk to my African friends and my Caribbean friends, the fact that I grew up in America and grew up the way I grew up, I can peep white people's BS when it's being run in some of these places that they can't themselves. And so it's kind of ironic that the Black American can peep white people's game, no matter where it's being run at in the world. But when Black people are running game on them here in America, it's like...
No, we can't see it. No, we can't see it. And that's because of, like, we have, for whatever reason, it don't make no sense. I give you that. But we can't see that game because we got low self-esteem. It's kind of like you can always run game on somebody who don't have low esteem. Now, we don't have low self-esteem as it relates to white people because we know what they did and when they did it and all that. But we have a very binary outlook, as if the only people who can do stuff to us, the only people we always suspicious of and see game with is white America and white people in general. But we don't see, like, when Africans come, we see like, that's my brother, he wouldn't do that. And it's just like, man, what you talking about? What you mean?
Yvette, you said something a few times in some other shows about about how cutthroat it is in these places. And you're right, because when I talk to my African friends, when I talk to my Caribbean friends, because everybody's black, there's no hierarchy of one race over another. So you don't really think in those terms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't think that you're being schemed upon. It just doesn't exist.
No. Yeah, I agree. I agree, fam. I agree.
There's a camaraderie here. There's a camaraderie here with Black Americans that.
Yeah, there's a flattening of blackness too. Like nobody ever lets us elevate us. And I'm gonna let you go after this. 'Cause I'm trying to get a couple more callers in. But nobody ever lets us elevate us. Like it's always and that's always a sign for me. Like if you start to talk about yourself and what we built and all that, and you start telling me, well, we kind of in Africa we have it better, and your daddy's run away. What, Negro? What are you talking about? Get off my street! Like we don't have kind of a code.
Before I go, I actually think the reason they do that is that because Black Americans created that. What I mean is that they came here and they heard you saying how many kings and queens and great societies, and they're like, really? We did all of that? Oh shit! They didn't listen. You created something that they didn't even do. That's why they're here. That's why the Chinese have been there colonizing now for the last 20 years. You have to stop creating the systems that are enslaving your own mind.
Ooh. That's Carla. We're gonna leave it on that.
We're gonna leave white man slavery of mental enslavement, and you're creating an additional layer, a more insidious layer.
We're gonna leave it on that, fam. But you done said it. You done said it. That's it. You done said it right there. You ain't gotta say nothing else. We gotta stop creating this in our own minds. And you are exactly right, fam. You gotta call back in because that was a wonderful call. I appreciate you. Thank you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the people. A lot of people of Jamaican lineage who seem to get what I'm talking about. Oh, I appreciate that call. We got to stop creating this BS in our own minds don't exist. These people ain't creating no kingdoms and queendoms and stuff like that. What you talking about? That's why they over here running. What you doing? You went to London, now you in America running. Stop doing that. And ain't no better place to go. You sitting here right now on a computer, on a laptop, and they ain't got right streets and stuff. Where you finna go and can't take no shower in the morning? You know you like to bathe. One of the things we do, we might be dead in the ghetto, in the middle of the ghetto. We're going to get up and take a shower and iron some nice clothes. The best clothes we got in the house now. Don't act like you ain't. You don't like mud on your shoes. I don't know why we like to act confused. And you like the delivery men to deliver your stuff to your door. You can't live like this and buy and use clothes now. Everybody got to get honest. I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 346. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
What's going on? My name is Anthony Dunbar. I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
What's going on?
Man, everything good. I like how y'all talking. The caller before me, I appreciate your call. That was good knowledge you was kicking.
Okay.
You know, but I'm from the South. Most of my people come from Mississippi. You know, my family and in the South, I don't know about the East Coast, the West Coast, but in the South, the black people is more slower. I'm gonna say they got crackatosis because they don't want to be. They listen to. They don't question. I'm even talking about my elders, like my grandma, my great grandma, my great grandpa, my daddy. They don't question nothing. They go with the flow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like the black people in the South, we more slower to seek knowledge because I feel like they wasn't taught to teach knowledge, to learn the knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think too, like we gotta understand, the South is what these plantations was, right? So I think some stuff got beat into us and out of us in the South. But I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you go, Carl. I'm sorry. I just want to say.
No, you good. You just having a dialect. And just like the other caller said about the Jim Crow, it was deeply in the South. You know what I'm saying? That messed my ancestors' mind up bad. So when I got up and started thinking more, to understand more, I feel, and I'm teaching my mother things. We go back and forth about things about blacks, like I told them, we need to get reparations, and we need to be at least 70% segregated. You know, stop trying to sit at the same table as the white man. White people don't share power. Nobody share power. You know what I'm saying? Now, power has to be taken.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
You know, and so, I say, man, and the people, and the black people, they say that's the leaders, or the news say the black leaders. I say they really getting paid off. They ain't help. They never helped us. Okay, we got rights, but that's all we got. There ain't no wages going up. We the lowest in this country, and we was here first.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so I even have my mother looking up things. She gets to calling me. I said, you was right about this, and because she grew up in that. I'm talking about how y'all talking about dark roads. My people from that Mississippi still look like that. It's a slave place. You know what I'm saying? Parts of Louisiana still look like it's a slave place. No street lights, just fields and fields of grass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and me, I'm trying to enlighten. Like I can listen to you and talk. I listen to a lot of people. I'm talking. I listen to y'all. I watch a lot of debates, a lot of history, and you know, I like what y'all be saying. But like the last caller talked about, you know, we was getting failed off. You know, but in Africa we did do some great things. History shows. You know what I'm saying? The history shows. You know, because that's the reason why they still talk about Alexander the Great, because he was I call him the Greek, because he was the one that did come in and took over. You know, history shows. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only part I disagree with y'all about. But other than that, man, I feel about the reparation. We need reparation. Ain't nobody black on the news. I don't even know where they get half of the motherfuckers, excuse my language, half of them from. That don't even talk about reparation.
I agree.
And these whatever.
No, I said I agree. He said, what happened? I said I agree.
So, and these athletes, these Democrats always want to put on, and these rappers, the Democrats want to put on the news. What can they talk? I mean, athletes say, what can they say? They don't even know. Half of them don't even know what's going on in the side to even say anything about. Like, to be honest with you.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So, and I feel like all these we need to come together and understand that whoever the black people they say that's the leaders, they need to be removed because they ain't in our interest.
No, I agree.
Ain't none of the government in our interest.
No, I agree, fam. I'm gonna let you go and try to get another call in, but I appreciate you, fam, and I agree with you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in, fam. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a lot going on. Woo. I'm gonna try to get to. We at that hour. I'm gonna try to get to. I know. One call went long, but that was a great call. But anyway, I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 608. 608. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Sister, mother, queen of Ados, Yvette Cornell.
What's going on, family? How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is Ralph, a.k.a. The Shepherd, ADOS, Wisconsin. Oh, let me put my libations down. There's just so much going on.
Yes, put your libations down. Sit them down.
Where to begin? So, just seen on Twitter, Ice Cube plan on posting some agenda that he got to repair Black America from top to bottom. It seems like everybody is just stripping down ADOS 101 and using it for parts for their own agenda. It's just mind-boggling. Then you got, what's her name, Angela Stanton King or whatever. She out here. She's like the female Dave Chappelle.
Who is she? What's her name?
Making black jokes and shaming black people just to get laughs out of white people. It's a lot of crazy going on.
Who? But, Angela who?
Angela Stanton or something. One of them Republicans always bringing up something. You know, they roll them out. I don't know where they get them all from, but they roll them out just constantly. Just to, you know, they trying to hijack the black movement. Democrats want to hijack the black movement. Black Lives Matter. Everybody want to just hijack what ADOS is doing. And it just gets tiring just seeing it. But
Well, yeah, everybody
that's
wants
just
to.
some things that was on my mind.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I appreciate it, fam. I mean, everybody's trying to see how they can capitalize on this moment. And
And that's what I see too. They
yeah,
all just trying to capitalize on it, and not giving credit where credit is due. And it's like you said before, a few shows before. There's only certain people that you can put in front of the movement before it just dies. And at this rate, if all these people out here protesting, doing everything, our demands of reparations is not being heard, they just gonna wait us out.
yeah.
And
Just
continue
die
to
out.
wait
Yeah.
us out until
Just die
everybody
out.
get off these streets when it starts getting cold and whatnot, and that's just gonna be the dead movement. But anyway, I'm gonna get off that so other people can get on phone. I just want to touch on one thing. I saw to you in your DM a flyer that's been going around town about the blackout happening
Oh
on
yeah,
the
I
7th.
saw it. I saw it, fam. I got it. We gonna do a blackout. We got $2 trillion. We ain't gonna shop on this day. When has that worked? I'm
I just
saying
wanted your opinion on it.
I see it every year. Every year, a bunch of Negroes tell me we ain't gonna shop on some day, and I'm just wondering when has it worked. We gotta stop doing the same thing and being wondered why it ain't work this time. You just keep doing the same stuff over and over and over again. So no, I ain't worried with that. Y'all take that stuff somewhere. I don't plan on buying nothing no way, but I'm just saying, like, take that stuff somewhere. Ain't no problem. We got $2 trillion. We could just sit out. We could stop people do that. People do that every year. Somebody come up with that like it's a brand new idea. God dang. Maybe we could just get behind this one agenda.
Well, how come all our millionaires and billionaires, they put their money to help the black community? I'm like, obviously y'all haven't done the work to realize that 50% of the race is like negative $100 billion. Like, how can you expect the top 2% to cover the rest? That's just not going to happen. There's no black wealth without white capital. Who do you think is dead on those dollar bills?
Yeah, most of these celebrities ain't no real they millionaires, but millionaires in terms of, like, I can live in a nice home and have some nice cars. They ain't got money, liquid money like that to be giving away. They struggling right now doing COVID too. They normally be trying to run and make a movie and run over here and do a commercial and run over here and do something else. They normally be patching their life together too with 10,000 different projects. You see them running and hashtagging a bunch of junk.
It's crazy.
They ain't
I'm
fooling
out here in
me.
Wisconsin. We done had a woman get stopped at the stoplight, got lighter fluid squirted on her, match thrown on her. Meghan Markle reached out to her, I guess to give her a courtesy call, since her hearing ain't royalty no more. I imagine they're not paying for some surgery or anything. But you got another brother found dead in the lagoon, while a white dude sit there and kick police and injure a canine dog, and they just take him into custody without a scratch. It's getting crazy out here doing all this. But look, I'm gonna let you get going.
No,
I just wanted to get a few things off my mind because it was driving me crazy.
No
Just
problem.
one other thing,
No
I don't mean to cut you off.
No problem,
Kill
fam.
Tone, stop blocking me. I don't know why you keep blocking me on Twitter. I don't know what I said. I don't want to use this time to even kill Tone or block me. But the Shepherd on Twitter, unblock me, brother.
All right. I'm sure you'll listen to it. Thank you, fam. I appreciate
I love y'all.
Appreciate love you back. I wish Tone had his show back so you could call in. You call, stop unblocking me. And Tone had an unblock me circle at the conference. Anyway, fam, I'm gonna have to let it go right here. But don't worry, we shall be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will be back tomorrow to have the conversation. So if you did not get in tonight, do not worry, do not fret, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed or discouraged. You will be back tomorrow. So thank you, fam. For those who didn't get in, I apologize. But one call went long, but that was a really great call. When good calls come in, you gotta let them go. But tomorrow, I'll try to give more time to the call so that some people who didn't get in tonight can get in tomorrow. So, fam, woo-wee! Everybody, look, we just got to get proud of who we are and what we come from, and we got to stop people. You heard what the man said. We got to stop letting people run all this game on us. All this game. Oh, you don't have this, you don't have that. And y'all believe this? What? Y'all believe that this is what Africa is? Oh, yeah, you right. We got culture. We got this, that. We got all this stuff. Yeah. Y'all daddy's in jail. We know where our daddy's buried. What your daddy do? Because Barack Obama's daddy ran off. And the little half Nigerian man who was one of the ones who was there when George Floyd died, His daddy ran off too, apparently. But I hear all this stuff about y'all, the fathers be there. Everybody got to stop buying this stuff. And everybody's flocking here. All the black immigrants have flocked here for a reason. They flocking here to become American. And Adolf trying to leave America. Don't let these people run no game on you. We get up in the morning. And what we got to do is make sure we get to maintain and be American. Don't nobody want to go nowhere where it's going to be no brown out and the water ain't going to be hot. Ain't going to be no water pressure. I need suds when I bathe. I can't bathe without no suds. If the water come out low and it don't make no suds, that's not refreshing. What kind of refreshing? You ever work out and come back to a weak shower? Or ain't got no water? That's some depressing stuff. And we got to, I don't think we just understand, like we're American in terms of what we expect and stuff like that. I don't care whether you are a lower middle class, working class, in the ghetto, or whatever. I don't care. You expect the shower to come on. If you paid the water bill, you expect the shower to come on and have a nice shower. And you can buy a nice thing of soap for not a lot of money at the store. Right? These are things that are not just set up for the wealthy. It's set up for everybody. We can all have that. Don't nobody want to be nowhere else. I ain't going to Ghana with you. Shut up. Talking about just come home. If you African American, if y'all just having a problem, just come home. That's not my home. Why I'm gonna come what you call home? Come there so you can just take my slot and come here. I ain't crazy. Anyway, fam, please do not forget to hit that like button. Share, please share this with people so we can get the message out. Please do not forget to share. Hit the subscribe to Brown. Go to subscribetobrown.com to sign up for the newsletter. Also, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. Hit that bell too. If you want to donate, as always, go to donatebrown.com or patreon.com/WaCarnell. That would be wonderful. But it costs you no money to hit that like button. It costs you no money to hit the bell or hit the subscribe button. Those things are free. Cost you no money to go to subscribetobrown.com. So everybody's struggling. If you can't do anything, please do those free things for me. Those would help a lot. Cost you no money. Anyway, fam, until tomorrow, well, today at this point, be easy breezy, and I will see you soon.